Before we begin with the next season, one must excuse the sometimes bad audio in the next couple of episodes. I use the website Free Text-to-Speech, and since they made an update, the voice jumps between the normal sound and this metallic echo. I hope that they will fix it with the next update, cause this voice Grace was my favorite. Anyway, hopefully you will enjoy the new episodes nonetheless. And I will try to improve my grammar, since sometimes I do not write quite that good in English than I would write in my mother language German. And some words and names like Magort or Fauxmanda are not that easy to spell for her. Hopefully till Margot arrives I will find a spelling in which Grace can tell her name correctly like I would do. About the new Flashforward. I never liked this one. First of all because you ask yourself again if one of Emily's loved ones died. In season 1 it was Daniel before we even knew that much about this pair. And here you assume it is Jack because it is his boat. Though I like the look of this scene. Reminds me of the great wreck scenes from Titanic. It has some spooky but yet romantic notion. Anyway, I know they could not tell us what happened with Victoria right away. But since she was and is such a crucial character of the show, it was annoying that they did not start with her. Major spoiler alert. But after seeing the resolution with Fauxmanda dying, I made my peace with it. They had to use this as a cliffhanger, and though they tend to use repetitions and loops, it was only natural to do it this way. And if you think about the whole show, it was not that far-fetched. Victoria and Emily lost almost everyone they hold dear in the war against each other. I think that was always the plan of the showrunner. He said in an interview that he always thought the show would end with Emily and Victoria as the ones standing over the graves of their loved ones. I am not quite sure if this was also the message of the original story. That you can only lose when you take revenge. And in the end you must learn to live and cope with injustice. To grow as a person and become a better man. But it was definitely the essence of Emily's quote from the beginning. That two wrongs can never equal each other, and they definitely showed us that this show was about the vicious cycle of hate Emily and the Graysons were trapped. Anyway, I liked the eerie quality of the scene with the light from the diver, the turquoise water and the shipwreck. Revenge is not like any superhero and mystery show with vampires or other creatures. They use not that much effects, but I appreciate it when they do. I must say that as much as I loved Emily's monologues from season 1, I hated most of them in season 2. Like the plot, the quotes had not quite that perfect fit. Especially the one here about destiny. I now know it is about Fauxmanda and Emily and their journey. But it is just not that thrilling as the ones before. However, I love the use of prop here. The diver finds not only a picture of Jack, so again you know it is actually the Amanda that is now a shipwreck. By the way, I was happy they buried the stupid Haiti plot with this finally. And with the compass that Emily gave him, you really get the impression that Jack's time is running out. Major spoiler alert again here. It is interesting that they killed almost every one of Emily's love interests. First you got Fauxmanda in this season. I count her in as Emily's love interest since they got a deep connection. Though it might not have been sexual, it definitely was mutual, that they share a deep and not fake friendship. Then in season 3 you get Aiden, which was obvious to drive her over the edge like the death of Fauxmanda did. And in season 4 you got finally Daniel and even Ben. Emily is some kind of a Black Widow in these storylines. Though it seems to be an ongoing theme for heroines. That being attached to them or someone they care about is dangerous. So they try to isolate from the ones they love in order to protect. Something I think they have done in season 3 with her and Jack. Since she knew that after Fauxmanda's death, Jack would be the next on the Grayson list. Emily wanted to keep him separated from her revenge ender. More about that when we get to the actual season. Back to the pilot episode of Season 2. I also like the transition from this dark blue water to the more light and sunshiny ocean in Japan. Though I doubt that they actually shot one scene out of the States. As I said multiple times before, I wished we had seen more of Takeda. And I was very disappointed by the recast they did on him. I now know the actor they had before was not available due to scheduling problems. But could they not find anyone who looked anything like him? And why did Takeda 2.0 had to look like the worst cliché of a Japanese sensei? About Aiden. That was the thing I absolutely loved about Season 2. I immediately fell in love with Aiden. Especially after watching the original version, not the German sync. As many girls out there, I have a weakness for British accents. And this whole mysterious aura around him. In Season 2 you never quite can pin him down. Even after we are sure that Aiden is on Emily's side, he always does something stupid or tries to outsmart Emily, especially in Season 3. But Emily and Barry had just such a perfect chemistry. Even when they fought, and they fought a lot, you literally could see the sparks fly in every scene. Last but not least, he looks far better than Nick Wexler and Joshua Bowman. He is tall and trained, but not like one of these bodybuilders on steroids. About Daniel and Ashley, this pairing really annoyed me. It was so obvious when they got together in the finale. And I really thought that Daniel would just use her to get over Emily and moved quickly away from her. I mean, he is a Grayson and surely one of the most popular bachelors in town. Spoiler alert. Like with Sarah in Season 3, they could have brought another ex-girlfriend of him back. Or he could have get a totally new girlfriend. Maybe even someone his mother liked and then quickly got tired of her and then ran back to Emily. But I assume they wanted not to risk that the audience would like to see Daniel with someone else than Emily, since they had to come back together for the sake of Emily's revenge ender. But Ashley was an obvious and an even more bad choice. Sure, she is attractive and available. Since Tyler, we have never seen her with a boyfriend. And she seems to fit in Daniel's type, ambitious, self-centered and elegant. About the scenes with Daniel and Charlotte looking at Emily's beach house. I know that is some of the great themes, that someone is looking and lurking at the house of his ex-girlfriend. But it was nice to see how the beach house was connected with Emily for both Daniel and Charlotte. After all, it was some kind of Amanda's childhood home, and she has many good memories about it. Daniel is so attached to it because he lived for the most of the time in Season 1 with her in the house. So the beach house became something like a second home for Daniel, too. And Charlotte and Victoria always have David and Amanda in mind when they look at it. So I always enjoy these scenes because they had many layers of feelings in it. About Jack and Fauxmanda, this story arc from the first episodes was something I enjoyed the least. Again, these two cannot be happy and have to fight against each other. I know we should believe that Jack's feelings for Emily are magically back and that he has the problem that he cannot be with her even though now she is free. But he has to stay with Fauxmanda cause she is pregnant. He had to at least try to stay together with her, otherwise they would have lost him as the one of the few solely good characters on the show. And for the writers it might have been interesting to explore Jack's dilemma here. But for me it was just dull and uncomfortable to watch. Fauxmanda is one of my favorite characters and she does not deserve how Jack is treating her. In this scene, Declan, Jack's little brother, is more helpful and cares even more for Amanda's safety than Jack himself. If they can switch Jack's feelings on and off for Emily that easily, why can they not do it again? And there is something that bothers me too in Season 2 and 3. Why did they need to show Nick Wexler shirtless? I mean, he looks got cause he is obviously trained. But why this obvious meat market? I know sex sells, but why him, since he is going to be a father soon, and cannot be Emily's love interest for obvious reasons? Why not show Daniel shirtless again? Or was Josh Bowman fed up with those scenes already? In The Vampire Diaries, the two male actors who portrayed the vampire brothers had this running gag that they would rotate from season to season, so they had enough time to prepare for those scenes and get into the right shape. I do not know what it is with American TV shows, but as they are obsessed with women boobs, they seem as much obsessed with the topless men. Since there are so many other parts of the body that have a sexy potential, like the back and the butt, for example. About Charlotte's recovery. As I said in the previous episodes, I do not understand why they skipped the part in which Charlotte was struggling with herself and her drug addiction. Did they not trust Krista B. Allen to play that part? That would have been stuff for great scenes. And why did they not make Emily visit her? She could have been a real support here, even though she was not Daniel's fiancée anymore. About Conrad's behavior towards Charlotte. That was really something I did not understand. Though it was not out of character for Conrad to use the helpless situation of his daughter. But after we have seen how much he cares about Charlotte, even though he knows she is not his biological daughter, it was more than disappointing to see him be so cruel to Charlotte, even if she was still in bad shape after her suicide attempt. Why did they not grant her the chance to go to her mother's funeral? What had Conrad to gain with this? He only did hurt the daughter, which was always his favorite. It was the more disappointing since it would have been good for her healing to say goodbye to her mother. About Emily's new flashbacks. I loved the idea of seeing her mother and getting to know more about this family. Since David always seemed to be the best father, I was thrilled to see Amanda's mother. And I love the first snippets we get to see in this episode. Like the flashbacks with her father, they were full of light and had this fairy tale quality. What I still really dislike is how the story with her mother was played out and how they solved the problem that her mother did not come for her after David was arrested. But about that later when we get to the actual episode. First, I was as thrilled as Emily and could not wait to find her mother. About her fight with Aiden. Interesting that she is always the one who wins these fights. Like with the first TV show heroine Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Emily is the one who can easily protect herself and even take down of the men who try to protect her. By the way, I love that he refers to her as Amanda. It is the first time after Nolan that someone called her with her real name. And it is also the first time that Aiden actually talks with her on the show, if you not count the flashbacks in. But you see in her reaction that for Emily her mission always comes first. She is afraid that if she allows him to call her that way, someone would find out. And it is also the first little hint how hard it is for her to bring those two very different identities back together. Emily is no longer a cover for her, it is who she really is. I also like that they play out her trust issues again. This time it is Aiden who has to regain her trust. By the way, I like the little backstory of them we see in the flashbacks. I know his story was not that much inventive, but I liked it nonetheless. The conflict with Takeda, on the other hand, was not that much attractive. I dislike how he was always in the defense. In my opinion, they showed him very weak in this season. I never liked how they changed Takeda's character. After all, he was an old man who used kids for his own revenge. Takeda from season 1 was intriguing and some kind of mastermind who liked to play and use Emily in the same way as she and the Graysons did with people. In this season it felt like he has lost his senses and could not keep up with the game, and that he used Aiden to spy on Emily without thinking about the consequences. He knew about their relationship in the past, and it not occurred to him that Aiden would choose Emily over him and his training. That was poor insight into the human nature. About Nolan boxing. Another thing I enjoyed in this season. Nolan got more plot and storylines of its own. And that he is preparing himself for the worst case was not only smart and foresightful. It was also nice to see that he could be more than a computer nerd. About the time jump. I know the actors have always their holidays between two seasons, so they use at least a little time jump between two seasons. With this they can give the show a fresh look, and they can make the audience wonder what happened in the meantime. So I was not surprised. What I did not like is that they did not fill the time gaps with flashbacks. We never got to see how Conrad admitted Charlotte or how Victoria's funeral was. Was it a big event, or did Conrad made it quick since he was the one who killed her? So he could not want to make a fuss about it. And what was Emily doing besides getting flashbacks to the time with her mother? They never really answered any of these questions. About Nolan's new house. I loved this internal joke with Nolan searching for a new house.
You better be house hunting.
And that he moved in with Emily was just so funny. I enjoyed the idea of them being roommates. Really added something to their brother and sister relationship. The hunt for Emily's mother was thrilling, and they got heightened expectations really quick. One little detail I hated about this scene. It was spooky and they put the little memory snippets nicely in, but I hate that they used the infinity symbol. In my mind the symbol is reserved for her and David like a secret code. And I am not sure if Amanda and David had first invented it in the beach house, at a time when Amanda's mother was already away. How could she know about this sign? I know they had to find something Emily could identify. But why could they not put something new into the memories? Why not show us a memory of her necklace or hairband or anything else? They had plenty of time to show us something that would make a connection. About Ashley walking into Victoria's footsteps. As obvious as the relationship to Daniel was the change of her status and outward appearances, it was totally fitting for her character to take Victoria's place. But it was annoying and ridiculous that she looks like a bad copy of her. I like Daniel's sharp tongue in this scene. He really gives his father contra for the first time. I think Daniel has a bad conscience after his mother died. In a way, he feels responsible for her death, and maybe he assumes that his father had something to do with it, since the timing and the circumstances were that convenient for him. And like we know it from season 1, drinking is Daniel's preferred coping strategy. About Amanda's mother in hospital and new little Amanda. I like how they paid attention to the fact that Amanda is shown in different phases of her childhood. In season 1 we saw her with David and Jack at the brink of becoming a teenager. The flashback episode and the flashbacks with Fauxmanda Emily Van Camp could handle, since she still had this slim figure of a teenage girl. But with the new flashbacks about her mother we see an even younger Amanda. I would assume around 4 or 5, since she cannot remember that much. Our memories start around that time in childhood, so it is much likely she is in that age when her mother was sick. So they used a younger actress. And even though I miss Emily Allen Lind, who portrayed little Amanda in season 1, her sister does a really great job too. What I really dislike about the storyline of Kara Wallace Clarke is her being mentally ill. I know they had to make her unfit to care about Amanda, so that the audience would not ask questions like, why did she not take care of Amanda after David's arrest and death? But could she not be just sick cancer or something with a long recovery, so that she was not able to take care of Amanda back then? Why did it have to be a psychotic disorder? Was it not enough to make David a criminal and a terrorist? Now her mother is a dangerous psychomaniac. About Emily's new style. What I love about the time jump and the vacation is that Emily and all the other actors got color and wear summer looks again. I enjoyed Nolan's sweaters and Emily's coats, but the dark colors really gave the show a more gloomy look. The maritime theme and those bold colors I prefer because they always lighten your mood. And they also make anything on the show appear not that grave. As I mentioned before, I prefer Emily's new hairstyle with the light waves. She looks more feminine and soft with these. About Emily and Charlotte. I do not know what they had in mind with the relationship of these two in Season 2. After Charlotte and Emily got to know that she is David's daughter too, they had barely a scene together, and in this season it seems as if they wanted to emphasize the loss of Fauxmanda by bringing Charlotte and her together. Which is the worst combination besides Daniel and Ashley, of course. And why did Emily take the time to travel around the world or train with Takeda or what else instead of helping her sister cope with the loss of her mother? She could have told Charlotte the truth since Victoria was gone. I cannot believe that Charlotte would have been that stupid to tell Conrad the truth, since she also assumes he has something to do with the death of her mother. And if she would have told Daniel, the better. Then Emily could have talked with him face to face and be really open and honest to him. But that would even not have been necessary. Emily could have just shown up because she grew fond of her future sister-in-law and support her as a true friend. I guess Emily is still using Charlotte and does not give a damn about her feelings. Like Jack said in Season 3, she really avoids taking responsibility for her little sister. Besides denying Jack and using Daniel that way in Season 2 and 3, that was the most wrong and unforgiving thing Emily did throughout the entire show. Talking about color schemes again. I do not know if it was just the color of the season or chance. But I like that both Fauxmanda and Charlotte wear purple. Since red is Emily's color, this underlines their status as Emily's sisters. Talking about fashion again, I liked Fauxmanda's trashy look in Season 1. But in this Season 1 think they got too far. Why would she still wear these short shorts when she is that far pregnant? I mean, even a girl like her would like to wear something more comfortable when she is in her last pregnancy month. About Emily and Fauxmanda, I like how their relationship evolves in Season 2. Emily must be furious that Fauxmanda has everything she always wanted in her life, Jack, who seems to grow to love her again, and a family of her own with this baby. I always felt sad for Amanda that in the end she lost all this in Season 3. A future with the man she loves and having a baby of her own. So in my opinion she got punished enough for her sins throughout her revenge ender. Anyway, I like the tension between the two and that there is something like a balance of power. They both could destroy each other's life with the truth, so they can be sure that neither of them would spill out the truth. On some level, Emily can always trust and count on Fauxmanda, 'cause she is still willing to help her and Emily still seems to need her. About the new red dress. Emily looks really great in this dress and with the sunglasses. Like she comes straight from Monte Carlo or French Riviera. Her new hairstyle with curls on one side really suits her all more feminine look. And the flashback to Daniel's proposal really makes you feel the loss again. Though I was never a big fan of Emily and Daniel, and I enjoyed her with Aiden too much in the next 2 seasons, I must admit I missed the head over heels in love Daniel. And Emily appeared far more soft when she was in love with Daniel than in her scenes with Jack. I think she never let her guard down with Jack in the way she did with Daniel in Season 1 and later with Aiden in Season 3. Though I knew from the moment they broke up that they would get back together, I like the idea that Conrad is some kind of a advocate for Emily. He always liked her and wanted her in the family, not because Victoria was so much against it. I think he always saw the similarities between the two and therefore felt immediately in love with Emily as he fell in love with Victoria. And he says what the audience thinks, that Daniel goes low with Ashley. Also, the joke is on Daniel cause every woman besides Sarah and Margot cheated on him. About Victoria's portrait. Sorry, but as I saw this I knew they would bring her back. Why make such a fuss of her portrait and having everyone join for a memorial auction if not to reveal the big surprise that Victoria is not dead? I was only surprised that we did not see her sneaking in Grayson Manor to steal her favorite dress or jewelry. One more thing about Emily's look in the new season. Though I like her wearing not that much jewelry in season 1. I really enjoyed her earrings and that they sometimes looked like the double infinity sign. It was not at all subtle, but I liked it anyway, or even because of that. And since Emily is a socialite, why could she not afford to put on some accessoires when she is not on a revenge mission? I love the reminiscence to her first scene with Victoria when she saw her through the scuttle. Though I doubt that Ashley could be as a bad and equal enemy as Victoria was. I like that Daniel seems some kind of afraid meeting her. It is always awkward to meet the ex if you had not a breakup when both stay friends. This conversation between Jack and Fauxmanda was one of my favorites. She is really not that dumb and surely not afraid of addressing problems. It was sad that when Fauxmanda got the best version of her and grew into the role of a mother and wife, she was killed off. I would have liked seeing her stick around and seeing what kind of relationship she could build with Jack. I know it would have been more tricky to keep the two together after the truth came out, but would have been interesting to see how she coped with all her lies. Since that was a huge theme for Emily and Jack in season 3 and 4. About Declan this season. I like how he started. He feels very much out of place. Especially because Jack seems to go in the wrong direction. Declan is very much in the same position as Jack. He follows his dream girl Charlotte, which he can never have. And Jack is in denial about his feelings for Emily for a very long time, till the end of the show. He cannot admit he is in love with her, cause that would be some kind of betrayal for Amanda, the girl he dreamed and hoped would come back for him his whole life. And now that she is pregnant, he feels even more obliged to neglect those feelings. And Declan knows that Charlotte, with all her problems and that messed up family, is no good for him, but still cannot break free of her. And on top of that, there comes this real problem of money and space. Jack should have really get a counselor in here to think about what he could do. Maybe it would have been better for him to sell the bar and start fresh in a new job. And they definitely were in need of a bigger apartment for his extending family. He could even ask Nolan for a loan if he would not be that damn proud. Since Charlotte is not my favorite character, she really surprised me in this episode. That grown-up and confident she never again appeared to me. I like that she stands up for herself and seems to be the only one who actually is saying the truth. That Conrad chose the painting of Victoria by her lover Dominic right of all things was really distasteful. Her dress and all-in-one look is pretty much fitting, too. The floral patterns really underline her youth, but this white dress also makes her look like a lamb going to slaughter. I really hated that Conrad used her drug addiction to snatch her inheritance. Yes, it was not at all that bad considering the things Conrad has done till now. But if you think about how close Conrad and Charlotte were in season 1 and that he always protected her before Victoria, that was a big breach of trust here for Charlotte. And I hate that Daniel is not there to support his little sister. In season 2 he seems not at all capable of doing anything decent except forgiving Emily, for instance. But I loved her turning to Emily. not only because of the underlying relationship of her being Emily's half-sister. It seems as if till season 3 Emily is the one person Charlotte trusts outside her family besides Declan and Jack, of course. And now there is Emily's furious look back. Though it is not very healthy, but I love the fact that Emily runs on hate and anger. These two feelings are the trigger for her inner strength, and they fuel her determination to go through with her revenge agenda no matter what. Though it is odd that she is furious and not at all surprised or happy that Victoria is still alive. I mean, now she has the chance to take her down like she wanted. And faking her death was surely something Emily did not expect from Victoria. About Conrad bringing that plane down. I know I discussed this in the finale episode of season 1, but I must admit for me this has far more logic than the initiative plot. Conrad was responsible for both plane crashes. The one that brought David in jail and the one that should kill Victoria and destroyed all the evidence against him. And Gordon Murphy, aka the white-haired man, was his fixer to do it. You need no initiative for this. The only thing that keeps in the dark is his motive. If he is a true terrorist, why does he stop there? Was he afraid he could be caught the second time? And if he was not a terrorist, why did he took that plane down in the first place? Some things fortunately do not change on the show. I like how Nolan and Emily are working together and that they still use technology to get the information they need. And at least Emily lost not her ability to adjust to surprising new situations. About Emily's and Jack's conversation. I do not really like those seen through, they feel most real. But they always drag around the same issues. Though I must admit that I still like the looks they share. There may be not that much romantic or sexy chemistry between them. But as friends or even brother and sister, the two actors do really work well. Sometimes they understand each other without words. And that they do not need to finish their sentences just underlines this feeling. As if they knew each other for ages and not just for 1 year. I wonder why Jack did not get it, cause that was something they captured really good in season 1 and 2. This mysterious attraction between him and Emily. And the attack on their relationship by assuming Fauxmanda would pin Jack a baby was a very desperate move, especially for Emily. As Fauxmanda came back pregnant, I must admit that was my first thought, since she was a stripper and surely thought that their relationship was over. Why should she have been faithful to Jack? But I do not think that Fauxmanda would go that far and come back pregnant if she not at least thought the baby was Jack's. Something about the editing here. I like that they use the reflection in the glass door and it looks as if Emily and Jack melt into one. A nice metaphor for their romantic relationship. I think that she says they both cannot go back in time is meant in a broader way. Because they are all grown up, especially Jack, by founding his own family. They both can never go back to their happy childhood days. So in a way Emily is giving up her childhood dream in this scene. She knows that now Jack and Fauxmanda are a family. She can never get back together with Jack. He and Amanda share a bond that will never be destroyed, even not with the lie about her identity. The depriving mood of this scene really makes is to some extent to their breakup scene. I like her statement that the kiss seems like forever ago. The show, with all the flashbacks and her holding on to her better past, really is about time and what it means to Emily and her relationships. In some way she is really stuck in the past in season 2 even more than in season 1. With Aiden coming back and the memories of her mother, it is like the past haunts her even more than all the things that happened with her father. It is like the diagnosis of Michelle Banks at the beginning of season 1.
The past continues to define her present.
'Cause she never can truly break free of her past till her revenge agenda is over. And as we see in the finale episode, maybe even not after that. About the idea naming their son after Jack's and Amanda's dead fathers. That was a very nice tribute and shows how generous and caring Fauxmanda can be. It seems as if she really wants this relationship with Jack and her family to work. About Jack's new look. I like this, some kind of pirate look with the beard and the longer hair. Reminds me of that famous portrait of Shakespeare. Only the earring is missing. But I do not think they intended to make him look like a hipster with this beard and the long hair. He really looks messy. What fits his actual state of mind and their money issues, since he seems to not have that much time taking care of himself. About Emily's little exchange with Victoria. Funny that in this season they actually are working together. Since in season 1 they were just faking out cause Victoria had her own agenda, as did Emily of course. But they both try to help Charlotte, and later Victoria is using Emily to protect Daniel from the initiative. However, Victoria never lost her suspicion and never truly trusted Emily. And from season to season Emily seems getting better in playing Victoria and pushing her right buttons. I just enjoyed her remark that she is so happy Victoria is still alive. For her and the audience this means she is looking forward to exact revenge on Victoria. Though they both have not that much scenes in this season, one always enjoyed when they tried to hurt each other's with words, something both women are best skilled with. About the ending montage and the song. Most of the songs of revenge I enjoyed. They use not as many as other shows like Grey's Anatomy or The Vampire Diaries. But when they do it is always significant, and there were only a few I did not like. This one is not the best choice if you think about the lyrics, but I like the mood of the song. Because nearly everyone besides Nolan maybe is in a bad place at the beginning of the show. Charlotte is trapped in this institution and cannot reach her mother. Daniel misses Emily and cannot do anything about it. Jack is trapped with Fauxmanda and she knows that he is not that much in love with her as he was before she left. Victoria has trapped herself and finds no way to help her daughter. And Emily has now the weight of her memories about her mother, too. About Victoria and the white-haired man working together. This was something that did not make sense to me. Is he someone who works for the initiative as a fixer, or is he part of the initiative? 'Cause if he is a part of that organization, why would he betray Conrad? Or did he break free and is now his own man? Either way, I cannot understand why he helps Victoria. Spoiler alert. If he is truly in love and in a relationship with Emily's mother, why does he help the woman who wanted his lady friend dead? And why does he help her kill Emily and does not give a damn even though he knows she is Amanda Clarke, the only daughter of his girlfriend Cara Wallace Clarke? I must say his storyline ended with more unanswered questions than any one of the characters in Revenge. In retrospect, the pilot episode of season 2 was not that bad. They opened up much opportunities and the audience got a lot of new questions, which is always good to keep the interest. And they managed to bring in a fresh face with Aiden.